today you're in the kitchen with me, Renee Romeo, teaching you how to make bloody little severed Halloween creepy fingers. It's basically a very simple shortbread recipe, and we're just going to do a little bit of prep beforehand just to try to make the process go along a little bit easier. So I have a bag of slivered almonds, and the slivered almonds I've dumped out onto a plate so that I can really get a visual on them and see which ones are shaped the most like a natural fingernail. So what you're really looking for here is a shape that has a tip on one end and a rounded base on the other. And so we're just going to take these and maybe grab 50 of them or so and grab a little bit of red gel food colorant. And we're just going to go ahead and lightly paint the edges of these just to give it a bloody appearance. So I have a little mini paintbrush, and I'm just going to go ahead. You can put this on a plate if you'd like to, if you're not quite so neat about things. But basically what I'm going to do is I'll just go ahead and demonstrate on this one almond. I'm just going to put my finger on the tip of it. You want this bloody area to be at the base of the nail, and so that's really all you're going to do. You're just going to go along and you're going to do each one, fairly similar. So they don't all have to be exactly the same, so don't get crazy about it, because this really does need to appear as natural as possible, whatever that means as far as a bloody fingernail is concerned. So just go ahead and hit every one of these, and then you're just going to let them slightly dry while you're actually mixing up your shortbread mixture. While the fingernails are drying, we're going to go ahead and make our dough. So in a mixing bowl, I have 2 sticks of butter at room temperature. I have 2 whole eggs and 2 egg yolks mixed in here, and then 1 teaspoon of vanilla. So once that's all in, I'm just going to go ahead and just mix it slightly just to get the yolks incorporated a little bit into the butter. And that might take about 30 seconds. To that mixture, I'm going to add 1 cup of confectioner's sugar, 3/4 of a cup of granulated sugar, and then just a pinch of salt. And then I can go ahead and just, what I do with this is just pulse it in so that the powder doesn't go flying all over the place. And once that's pulsed in and moisturized, then I can go ahead, turn it up to medium-high speed, and leave it here for 3 to 4 minutes. Okay, and you'll see it's nice and fluffy after 3 to 4 minutes of mixing. And to this, we're going to add our flour. So to this, I add 3 1/3 cups of flour, and so I put 1 cup in at a time. And again, I incorporate this just by turning the mixer on and off just until it's incorporated, making sure that it's not going to go all over the place. Okay, and then I can continue. So once this is done, all I'm going to do is just mix this in until it's incorporated. I'm not going to leave it on for a while. So you don't want this to get really stiff and very tough side. So you really have to be careful with how much you mix this dough. I don't want it to be crumbly, but I do want everything on the bottom of the mixing bowl to be incorporated, and that's just enough. So this is ready to go, and I'm just going to go ahead and form this into a ball and lay it out on the counter. So it's in a nice ball, and so all I'm going to do at this point is just go ahead and cut it in half so that I can start portioning these out so that the fingers will be relatively the same size. And so I'm just going to keep cutting each little piece in half, and then in half, and in half, until I get about the size that I need for a single finger. Okay, so let's start out with a wedge like this. And so we're just going to take this in our hands. And you can roll it here, you can roll it here. I kind of like the idea of it being like a long, skinny finger. And, if you can kind of lay your own finger next to it at the same time, you'll be able to figure out exactly how to pinch this together. So you do need a couple of knuckles in here. And you need an area for a nail. So let's do a close-up on this. So I have my little wedge. You'll see it's about yay big. And then just going to take it and roll it Now again, you don't want this to be something that you're going to overwork, but you do need to get this nail shape in here. So you need one knuckle at the top and another knuckle at the bottom, and you can kind of, but you use your own finger here, place it side by side. You're going to need an area for a nail bed. Then, once you get this general shape, you can go ahead and score your knuckles because your natural finger has that shape. And then you'll grab one of your almonds, like so. Now the red side goes toward the knuckle, and you're just going to lightly brush the nail bed with that leftover egg white mixture. And you're going to just push that nail right in place. And then once you get that in place, you can go ahead and play with this just a little bit, just to make this look a little bit more realistic. So there you have it. There's your finger, and when it bakes up, it's going to get nice and puffy, and it'll look very realistic. So let's just do another one real quick here. So I'm just rolling, and this is the base of the finger, and so the base of the finger, you're just going to push your dough up and make a little indentation, and do the same, move your fingers down, do another indentation, and then you're just going to pinch that off because this is going to be the tip of the finger. So let's just round this out a little bit, and then press down for the fingernail and round that out, and then take our egg wash and egg wash the tip, grab a fingernail and stick it in there, press it down, and then you can come back over the top of this and kind of even it out and kind of round it out, and then go ahead and get your knife in there and score the knuckles, and that's how quick it is. Now you'll see I have these all lined up on a parchment lined baking sheet, and what I'm going to do now is go back in. You'll see I've started in with this stump portion of the finger and just gone in with a little bit more red. You know, obviously these are supposed to be cut off, so they need blood at that point, and you can be as messy as you'd like with this because this isn't going to be something that's going to be perfect. You don't want it perfect. So now that that's done, you'll also notice here that I have a little piece left over, and I do this in every single recipe. I make sure that I have a chunk left over that I can taste test to make sure that I haven't omitted any of the ingredients, because the last thing you want to do is serve these, even though they look awful, you don't want them to taste awful. So that's always a good idea for every recipe that you do. So this goes into the refrigerator for about 2 hours. I need to make sure that this dough is nice and chilled. It's been 2 hours, and I'm going to take the cookies out of the refrigerator. And they're nice and firm and set up. And this cold cookie tray is going directly into the oven. Now this is imperative. If you don't do this, the cookies are going to spread and they'll get a little too puffy and they'll look more like toes than fingers. It's been 17 minutes and the fingers are done. Now they've spread a little bit, but that's okay because they're supposed to be monster fingers. So we're going to take out the next cookie tray, pop it in, and then we're going to let these sit on the cookie tray for 10 minutes until they set up, and then I'll transfer them to a drying rack. Now while the cookies are still on the baking sheet, I have a little dish here with some baking cocoa in it. And I'm just going to take my little brush and I'm just going to rub over the top of this along the edges and especially near the knuckles so that you can get 3 dimensions out of this finger. So you'll see it just looks dirty and kind of nasty, and that's exactly what you want. And then you can take them off of this to cool the rest of the way after about 10 minutes. But you'll see if you can get it into these little creases, it really makes these creases pop. Looks great. So in order to get this look out of the finger, basically I've brushed the cocoa powder on there, and I've just taken a little mixture of icing, decorator icing that you can get at the store in a dark brown. And I've just brushed it on, and then I'm going over that while it's still wet with a little bit more cocoa. And this is just going to knock that color down and make it look a little bit more rotted and realistic, because that's really what you're going for. So it gives the fingernail too a little bit more definition, and you can come back in and you can put a little bit more cocoa underneath the nail to get that to pop. But that's about as realistic as you're going to get. Well, there you have it. They're all done just in time for Halloween. They're just as unappetizing as you could possibly imagine, and but they're very, very yummy. So this is Renee Romeo. Until next time, I'll bring you another great recipe, especially for the holidays.